Opening statements in the Kilpatrick corruption case. Prosecutors paint a picture of Detroit's former mayor breaking the law to live a life of luxury. But the defense fired back, saying the case against Kilpatrick is a scam. Channel 7 legal analyst Tom Cranmer is here now to kind of break it all down for us.
Tom, thank you so much for joining us. And
you bet.
What a day of opening statements. I mean, the prosecution just took this hardcore stance, if you will, undercover video, texts, wiretaps, and then you had the defense that kind of went by the book with it. So how do you think the jury responds? Like, what do they like better?
Well, you know, it's hard to say, but I think we saw a little bit of everything, Glenda, just as you indicated. When we started with the prosecution statement, it was exactly what we were talking about, I think, yesterday. It was powerful, it was compelling, it mixed in a variety of different things, a couple of text messages, some video and what have you, used a PowerPoint presentation, and it was compelling. And I think the other thing they did that was wise is it wasn't too long. It was about 45 minutes, and for a case of this length, I think they did exactly the right thing. Didn't get into too much detail, but tried to leave this impression of all this money going into the former mayor's pocket. On the defense side, we saw a little bit of everything. We saw some of the lawyers attacking the witnesses that the prosecution are going to be calling, saying that they made deals and that they're out to kind of save their own skin. Gerald Evelyn talked about how they may have quantity in terms of witnesses, but not quality. So we saw a little bit from the defense as well, and they tried to preview the fact that, hey, you've got to wait and hear it all, that what you're seeing from the government are just snippets, portions, they're taken out of context. When you see the whole picture, you'll have a much different view.
And we saw Victor Mercado's lawyer paint him as a collateral damage in this entire Kilpatrick enterprise.
And exactly right, and that's important. I think that's part of what he's...
I mean,
well, I think it is.
$10 an hour and everything, working in a hardware store. How important is it?
Well, I think it is for his particular case, because I think what we're going to see develop, and we've already seen some evidence of this, is that there's going to be two groups of defendants. There'll be the Kilpatricks along with Bobby Ferguson, and then Victor Mercado has tried from the very beginning to kind of separate himself and suggest to the jurors, hey, you have to view me individually as an individual, and I'm off over here. I'm not really part of this group. So that'll be an interesting strategy, both for Victor Mercado in terms of his defense, but it'll also probably create a little bit of tension on the defense side, particularly if he tries to point a finger at the others.
And the prosecution, I mean, the witness list is long.
It is.
It is long. Does that make a statement in itself?
It does, Glenda, but it also presents a challenge. And the challenge is that with all these witnesses and with all this evidence, arguably, the prosecution still has to do, I think, what they did in their opening statement. They have to tell a story that is compelling, that is understandable, and doesn't get too bogged down in minutiae and the weeds such that the jurors can follow it and will feel compelled to want to hear more.
And we hear the former mayor say this is like a circus. Does it feel like that? I mean...
Well, I'm sure it does to him.
Sure.
In his shoes. There's no question about that. And, of course, there's a huge amount of coverage by us and all the other media, and I'm sure that will continue. But to some extent, as often is the case in a long trial like this, things start with a bang, and then they kind of slow down a little bit because you kind of slog through the witnesses, and I think we'll see a little of that as the weeks and perhaps months
and maybe that's why the defense wanted to change venues as well.
Well, I think so, Diane, and I think it's also, too, why they wanted to essentially send a message in one way or the other that, hey, we hear what the prosecution is saying, but members of the jury, you need to wait. You need to hear all the evidence. You need to put it in context and not jump to any conclusions right off the bat.